Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Renovation and Outdoor Living Show. My name's Rawdon Christie, and I'm bringing this to you live from my backyard in central Auckland. Moved outside because, as you can see, and if you're anywhere in New Zealand today, you probably have been sharing in this as well. The weather's turned good again for us for this long Anzac weekend. So episode 6. This is a live show, if you're not familiar with it, brought to you here on Facebook. And so the idea is that you get involved as much as possible. This is about community and communication. So give us your comments, say hello, questions, answers, 2 questions, criticisms, compliments about my hair, anything you like. Put it into the comments section and we'll try and get through them as much as we can. So the theme today, water. I guess we're going to look indoor and outdoor because of this is a renovation and a landscaping show. So the indoor, we're going to be looking at splash proofing, making sure you're doing everything to avoid the leaks internally. We're talking to an expert from Jib, who of course has a very vested interest in things being kept dry, particularly in bathrooms. And we're going to be looking at the outdoors, and that is what's the right type of pool for your home. Don't get me wrong, this may be autumn, but this is the time people are planning come the summer. You don't want to start thinking about your pool in December. Remember, we've got them at this stage. Start following them through for our 2 experts and we can get them 2 experts. So we can win prizes as well. That's all part of the connection. Now, last week or last Tuesday, on Tuesday, I asked you we were talking about biggest renovation fears. Here's the table we brought up. This was a survey done by Refresh, and it showed that the 5 top were in 5th to 1st, taking too long. These are fears, disappointing result, personal lack of skills, general price, and overwhelmingly, the biggest fear in any renovation was unexpected costs. We asked you what your biggest renovation fear was, and the best answer we got was opening up the walls and finding the framing is rotten. And congratulations to our winner, and that was Debbie Sweet. Well done, you gave us that. That was your biggest fear, opening up the walls and finding that the framing is rotten. You've won yourself, if you remember, it was a Makita cordless blower, leaf blower, really helpful with with rotten framing. But no, it's because we were talking to Makita about their amazing range of tools. It's $500 worth. You remember Dylan Myers from Makita on Tuesday. He organised the prize for us. Battery operated. No leads, no petrol, piece of cake. Very useful at this time of year. Debbie, can you give us your details, please? Message them here and we can get this leaf blower out to you as soon as we can. So, to today's show, I talked about the fact water was the theme. We're going to start inside, and we're going to start by talking to Russell Pedersen. Now, Russell Pedersen is manager of the technical support team at Jib. So, and also the training manager. So here we're talking about 5 technical advisors. They operate a technical helpline and they visit sites to offer technical advice and on-site training. And Russell is joining us, I think, also from Central Auckland this afternoon. Russell, good to see you. I hope all's well.
Yeah, good to see you too, Rawdon. Thank you. Cheers.
So tell us about this. This is a team of yours which works full-time on this helpline?
Yeah, correct. And so we will man a helpline with the 0800 number, which is 0800 100 442. We field calls from building inspectors, architects, engineers, and homeowner right through. So pretty much we get about 80 to 100 calls a day on the helpline. Wow. We get some funny questions and we get some tricky ones.
Wow, that's amazing. So you need a team of 5 on there with 100 calls a day. I mean, that's going at more than one every half hour. What sort of typical types of calls? Because as you've just said, it ranges if it's going from building inspectors right down to consumers.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people really want to get the systems done right. They want to get it right because they don't want to be redoing things in a couple of years. So I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, and so this brings us to something which you must get, I would imagine, a lot of calls about is best preparation when you're talking about installation of wet areas. I mean, it's, first of all, just explain what is a wet area. You know, according you would know the New Zealand building code better than most, I would have thought.
Yeah, I try to. It's a bit of a moving target, though. I think. And one of the key things here is in knowing what is specifically the wet area, because when we refer to the building code, it refers specifically to wet areas. So often, and people will think that the whole bathroom is a wet area. The reality is that, and when we look at the building code, there's a clause in there, a part in the building code called the E3 internal moisture code. And part of that talks specifically about, and it has pictures of what a wet area looks like. And I don't know if we can access the slides I sent through, but I've got some pictures there. Interestingly enough, it talks directly about the wet area being where the shower nozzle is. The photo there shows the dark grey area. So that's what we would typically refer to as the direct wet area. That's where all the action happens, all the water kind of does its thing, and that's the worst case area. If anything's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong there. There's a little bit different on that if there's a glass side on your bath or it's an enclosed shower. It's a little bit different to that. But one of the big things is to note that that is what we call a wet area. And one of the things that gets forgotten more times than gets remembered is one of the, I guess I put it on here because it's one of the things that pops up on the helpline a lot. One of the big questions for us is that in that wet area, because it's a wet area, in that internal angle corner, sometimes there can be one or two corners, but you're meant to have a little metal angle in there. So this is probably, because you can't fix this once it's all finished.
So this is what this is, I presume, to make it stronger, to stop movement.
Yeah. So the big reason why we've got that is because if you get movement between frame A and frame B, it's going to tear the waterproofing in that corner. And so I think the big thing here is that, especially when we had all these leaky homes and the homes would be moving, you get these the winner of the question was opening up the walls and finding wet framing. And I spent a few years as a tiler, and the amount of times you'd open up the walls and you'd wonder why the wall's still standing. So wet areas are so important, and that little metal angle stops the waterproofing from tearing in the corner.
And also I noticed that's a special type of jib as well. I mean, you're talking to a real dunce here, a real beginner. That's a special type of jib which you have to put on the wet area.
Yeah. So and it's interesting because you don't have to use jib aqualine. Jib aqualine was made because all our boards are made here in New Zealand. We designed and we made jib aqualine specifically for wet areas as a best practice thing to do. So you don't have to use aqualine, but aqualine is the best thing to use for a wet area because in one of the slides we've got a picture here where we prove that the core of the board is specially modified so that if there is any moisture comes into contact, whether it be through leaks or through just steam in the bathroom, it doesn't soak into the board. In the States they call plasterboard, they call it drywall. And so drywall is meant to be kept dry. Well, we've designed this so that if it does get wet, you won't have a problem. So on the left there, we've got board that's been soaked in some red dye and it hasn't migrated into the core. Whereas on the right, we've got standard board and it has.
Right. Because Mitch has just written a question in. Hi, Mitch. Thanks for the question. Said, can I tile on jib standard?
Yeah, great question. I think, and I've got and I think in the next slide we talk about specifically about tiling because let's face it, most of our bathrooms are tiled nowadays. And as I said before, I spent many years as a tiler. And the thing with jib aqualine is this, and the other question we get asked the most is, what tile weight can we use for what thickness board? So the jib aqualine comes in two thicknesses. It's the green coloured board there. The green coloured board is the aqualine 10 and 13 mil. 10 mil can take up to 20 kgs. And 13 mil, same. Now, in our literature, we've got a little picture of our jib site guide there. That's available online. We've also got the jib app that you can download, and you have that site guide available there. That has more information, but it doesn't actually mention, thanks for the question, Mitch, it doesn't mention jib standard. So the reality is that you're pretty close to those same weights with jib standard, and that's because you've got these special screws everywhere. So gone are the days of nailing up your plasterboard. They have to be screwed up, and we've got a special jib grabber screw. It's got a little G on the head, and the jib grabber screw is inserted to the board on the studs and top and bottom plate at 100 mil centers, so quite close together. And because the screws are so close together, you can pop tiling onto standard board as well. The standard board is very strong too. It just doesn't have the modified core. That's all.
That's fantastic. That's really useful. That's really useful stuff, Russell. I've written down get someone who knows what they're doing to do it for you. That's my advice. Yes. But Russell, thank you so much for that. I mean, we've only got a few minutes here, but that's given us a good introduction to the importance of being aware of the building code and also of the products which jib obviously provides us with. And you did mention the colour of the jib Aqualine, so we're going to see if anyone was actually listening properly, and we'll throw a bit of a prize out here. So the question is to all of you, what colour is jib Aqualine? Russell, you're not allowed to enter. If you get it correctly, put it into the comments, and we'll put it into a draw, and you can win either a jib knife. Well, no, you can win all of a jib knife, some pencils, tape measure, and a jib jacket. Is that a formal jacket, or what are we talking here, Russell?
I need to check the prize cupboard, actually. No, it's not a suit jacket. Gosh, this is jib we're talking about. We've got some hard-wearing jackets, I think, more along those lines.
Yeah, so a good sort of worker's jacket for around the house. Awesome, Russell. Thanks very much indeed. Good to see you. We'll see you again down the line.
Thanks,
now, we want to move from the inside as far as water goes to the outside. And it's a beautiful day. Some of you may well be looking around thinking, oh, what projects can we get done before winter strikes? Well, let's chuck a pool in. I mean, it can't be that hard, can it? I imagine so. So we want to talk to now. The Morgan & Stone website says that they offer the largest range of residential swimming pools in New Zealand, plus they can install your choice of pool anywhere in the country. I'd suggest installing it in your own backyard. But on a serious note, in our family, look, we genuinely have always made pools a priority, because my wife grew up in a home without one, but she noticed that they would spend, as teenagers, their lives at the houses of everyone who had pools. So we always said, that's what we want for our kids. So we have all the teenagers here. We can keep a better eye on them. So we've always made sure we've had a pool in the house. Now, Richard Lassells is joining us from Morgan & Stone. Richard, good to see you. I hope that you're able to tune in from beautiful Christchurch. Is this a weird time in the pool building business? I mean, autumn's setting in, or do you find that this is the time when everything starts getting going for next summer?
Oh, Rawdon, we're finishing pools from over Christmas, and now's the time to start planning if you want to have a pool for summer this year. So there's actually no time to waste. The process of getting organised takes a few months, and yeah, it's a good time to get cracking.
So you're finishing off the pools of the people who decided to have a pool put in when spring came around, and now they suddenly missed the summer.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'll bet there's been a bit of a, well, we'll use it, but we'll put the fencing in later. However, now tell me about the process, right? Because, you know, Morgan & Stone, I imagine, you guys are independent, so you're not tied to any particular products. So I presume, therefore, for you guys, no two pools will ever really be the same?
That's correct. Being independent means that we can offer our clients the right pool for them. And how you determine the right pool for them is you look at their land, their budget, you look at what they want to use it for, who wants to use it, and yeah, there's a lot to consider, and it's not one size fits all. And yeah, so we try and be as.
Do you find that a lot of the time they'll come along and they say, this is the pool we want? So let's say they'll bring this photo, because I mean that is absolutely gorgeous. They say that's what we want, and then you'll have to say, yeah, but.
Oh, all the time. Yeah, we come along and people have predetermined ideas on what's going to work for them, what their friends have told them they must have, what they've seen that they must have, and actually for a number of reasons they can't have it. But then again, it's finding what's going to be the right answer for them.
So we just saw that was like a bespoke concrete pool. I presume it's one of the main types of pool which you're doing nowadays. What other sorts are you commonly asked for?
Oh, there are three main types of pool. You've got concrete, fiberglass, and liners.
A bit of a freeze up there from Richard.
We back with you now?
I think Vodafone spat the dummy somewhere across the country, because we both are being fired up. But anyway, I was just asking you, what sort of main types of pool, obviously the bespoke concrete, what else do you see commonly being asked for, or what you end up doing a lot of time?
Key types of pool, you've got concrete, fiberglass, and liner pools.
And which is frozen up again.
Let me just go to a different connection here, Ward.
Okay.
Have I got you back, Rawdon?
I've got your back, I think, because I'm disappearing as well. So I think something is. Here we go. Here's another. Thank you. You've sent through a picture. So rather than talking, you're now going to show us fiberglass pool. Obvious. That's interesting. So the fiberglass pool's still popular, is it? I thought that was a. I mean, we've got a kidney-shaped fiberglass pool here, and I wouldn't have thought it was necessarily on trend. But you still do quite a lot of fiberglass pools. Richard's disappeared. See, he does. Oh, that's slightly different from our yeah, it's slightly posher than our kidney. Sure, what's going on? Right. Now I think you can now see and hear me. Richard seems to have been frozen out of the picture. But the questions which I was hoping to get to him. We've got some good answers coming through from the colour of Jib. Hi, Richard. If you can see me, oh, there you go. You disappeared again. Because Richard, you're back.
Yeah, and I'm back in.
Cool. Okay, so we had a look. We
Yes.
actually saw some common pools. We saw fiberglass. We saw a concrete pool, and then of course the liner pools. Tell me about this: salt or chlorine? It's an argument or a discussion which pool owners no doubt have in their backyards throughout the summer.
Yeah, look, the water treatment system is the way to kill your bugs in your pool, and it stops it going green, so it's killing bacteria. So most often we find people can think that a salt pool doesn't involve chlorine, but actually a salt pool generates chlorine gas, and that's what kills the bugs in your pool. So, but what it does do, it's much more targeted. It's directed straight into the water, and it's a long way from the old days when Dad used to go and throw chlorine randomly in the pool and hope for the best. So yeah, a salt pool is a chlorine pool.
That's today's pool in this corner of Auckland. So it's lower maintenance then. Is it lower cost as well?
Look, yeah, it is low cost. You're up for a new bag of salt every couple of months. That's about $11, and it does make it a lot easier to look after your pool, just not having to worry about any bacterial growth within the pool.
Oh, I know you said that pools, obviously, I mean, I imagine you could spend anything upwards of, I don't know, what would be the cheapest sort of in-ground pool? Sort of 40 grand or just give us an idea of where you'd start.
Look, starting price, 40 to 50,000 is ground zero. And then that can go anywhere up to $1 million plus. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But when you're thinking about the system to put in, whether you go for the salt assisted or the pure chlorine filtration system, are they very similar costs to put in, to install?
Is generally, as long as we price the water treatment system within a pool quote, you can then massage it around as you learn more or want to change it. They're all very similar in cost.
Plunge pools. I would have thought that these would, given the fact that everyone's tighter for space and probably, and I don't know, is it cheaper to put a plunge pool in? I presume so, given their size. But are they quite popular?
Oh, super popular, and we're putting them into some very small spaces, especially in inner city. You've got people who are selling down. They've realised some value in their large homes, moving into a nice apartment in the central city, and we're putting in little 5 metre by 2 metre plunge pools, either bespoke concrete or drop-in fiberglass. And yeah, just really being able to access water to cool off. And also one of the key benefits of a pool is not actually getting in it. It's just seeing it. It's very relaxing and calming, seeing water.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? So you only ever really need to build it like a 6-inch deep pool, don't you? And just look at
yes,
it.
You do.
That'd be a lot. How long does the process take? You said that this is the time we should start planning. But if, in all seriousness, if we want to be switching our brand new pool on, which is all consented, it's all fenced in, and we want to have it going by the beginning of December, when's the latest we can start thinking about it?
It's not much later than now. You've got the whole design process, and obviously zones help with that. So you've got, say, 4 to 6 weeks of design, engineering, council consent. So you need to allow 3 months just before you can get to a point you could start to build. And then, weather considerations, construction, it's not a given that we can go every day, all day. And depending on the type of pool, fiberglass pools are nice and quick. You can have those on the ground in a week, and you could arguably complete the whole job with simple plans in 3 to 4 weeks. Concrete pools can take upwards of 2 to 3 months. But you get a different look and feel, and it's a different construction process.
Right. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why I guess the fiberglass pool has retained some sort of, that it is still on trend, because it's just so much quicker. And therefore, is it cheaper?
Not always necessarily. Yeah. Okay. You can expect that it would be 15 to 20% less on a normal family size pool, which could be an 8 metre or 10 metre pool. But people do choose it speed of in-ground installation.
Just very quickly, while we're talking about the cost, I presume, therefore, that most of the cost comes from the the actual consenting process and the digging and the preparation, rather than the actual installation of the pool itself. Is that fair? Is that a fair comment, you say?
Oh, look, there are lots of different cost centres, and the consent process itself is a small part of it. You'd expect it to be a couple of 3% of the whole job cost. Excavation can vary depending on type of soil, and you could expect that would be around 10 to 12% of the construction cost. The pool itself, but then you've got things like heat pumps, filtration, lights, pool copings. So all of those layers add to the cost.
And so you can see how it can very quickly shoot up from your sort of 40, 50 grand upwards. I don't know if I'd quite ever be able to envisage the $1 million pool, but I'm sure is that the most expensive pool you guys have put in? $1 million?
No, we $500,000 at this stage, and we have a number of pools around the $250,000 mark. But generally, your typical family pool sits at around that $55,000 to $75,000, $80,000 mark, depending on the size. So those outliers.
Feedback that people get their money back?
Generally, it's accepted that if you build in an area where your home is of reasonable value and it's a family property, you could expect that most valuers attribute at least the construction cost of the pool to the value of your property.
Very quickly, question from Gareth. Estimated cost for a plunge pool installed and ready to go?
50 to 60.
Okay, there you go, Gareth. Get your checkbook out, and we can take that probably as is that a legitimate contract just been signed there with you guys with Morgan and Stone? Richard, get on to Gareth. We'll send you his contact details. Look, thank you very much indeed, Richard, for joining us. I'm sorry we had a few connection problems there, but we'll let you go because, as you said, you guys don't really have much time in the year when you can sit and relax too much. That is Richard Lascelles from Morgan and Stone there. Now, talking about pools, here's your quiz question today. This is your prize question today. Ask what do you want? Right, pool A or pool B? Which would you choose and why? Okay, you can choose between pool A or I want them both, one at the front and one at the back, and I'd like that land as well on A to go with my central city property, if that's okay. There you go. Let us know, pool A or pool B, and we'll see if we can find a prize and pull it out of the hat. Now, thank you so much for watching. Just a quick note, if you want a bit more information on the bathroom renos, there is a guide. I'm hoping that we can probably bring up a bit of a anyway, go to the Refresh website, because they've got a really good bathroom reno guide on at the moment, and have a look through that. And meanwhile, you can get hold of one of the experts if you want to. Just here you go, www.refreshrenovations.com. Go to them for any other questions, but particularly their thing on bathrooms is really impressive. This was episode 6 of the Renovation and Outdoor Show. We hope we got you the questions which you answered. A few of you managed to get the right answer in for the jib question, so we'll be drawing that out of the hat, and we'll tell you about that when we next see you on Tuesday. Also, any suggestions of what you'd like to see in the show, how we can make it better, what you don't like about the show, please do send us a message. And meanwhile, thank you very much for watching. Have a great long weekend. That's if you're in New Zealand, and if you're anywhere else, just have a great weekend.